Alright, listen up, Halo fans. My name is Cheese, and today I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm here to drop some hard truths about Halo that might make you want to throw your controller at the screen. We're diving deep into the dumpster fire that is the Halo trilogy. Buckle up, because I'm about to drop some stone-cold facts that'll make you wish you could go back to the golden days of Halo 4. Yeah, you heard me right. Let's talk about Bungie's baby. Sure, it was groundbreaking, but let's not act like it's the Mona Lisa of video games. The story was thinner than a Covenant shield after a rocket launcher hit. When I first stepped into the armor of the Master Chief, I was expecting groundbreaking gameplay, but what I got was a repetitive corridor shooter masked by a supposedly expansive universe. The level design, especially in the latter half of the game, felt like a copy-paste extravaganza. Library level, anyone? It was as if the designers ran out of ideas and decided, let's just make them fight through identical rooms over and over. This monotony broke the immersion for me, making what could have been an epic journey feel like a slog. The Flood isn't fun to fight. And it wasn't even a clever twist considering it doesn't add anything to the gameplay. They are just bullet sponges. The local multiplayer, which was the only option since there was no online play on the original game, was plagued with issues. The split screen reduced visibility, making precision shooting a nightmare, and the frame rate would often chug when too much action cluttered the screen. But the real kicker was the weapon imbalance. The pistol was absurdly overpowered, turning most matches into a race to press Y the fastest. This single weapon could dominate the entire game, making other choices feel pointless, even the damn rocket launcher. Furthermore, the lack of variety in game modes and maps made each session feel repetitive. And without any progression system or unlockables, there was little incentive to keep playing beyond the initial novelty. It felt less like a test of skill and more like a contest of who could exploit the game's quirks better. Don't even get me started on a Spartan taking fall damage. And the graphics? If you squint hard enough, you might mistake it for a modern game, but only if you've been living under a rock since 2001. Moreover, the narrative didn't quite deliver the depth I was hoping for. Here I am, this super soldier on a vast alien ring world, and yet the story often boils down to find the next switch to flip or rescue the conveniently captured Captain Keyes again. The characters lack development. Cortana was okay, sure, but our interactions were more about her telling me where to go next rather than building any real connection or story arc. She is your literal exposition girlfriend for the story, and the narrative relies on her way too much. Imagine how awful the game would be without Cortana's voice in your head. It's really ironic how people try to criticize 343 Industries for relying too much on novels for their games. Meanwhile, the only way you can get any information about the Master Chief's backstory is through the Halo novel known as The Fall of Reach. Nobody seems to care though, because Bungie is perfect and never makes mistakes according to Bungie fanboys. Diving into Halo 2, I was initially feeling more optimistic at the prospect of continuing the fight as Master Chief, but my enthusiasm quickly waned. The campaign felt like a disjointed narrative mess. Here I was, expecting to delve deeper into the Halo universe, only to find myself abruptly switching to play as the Arbiter. This switch wasn't just jarring. It felt like a betrayal of player investment. I had bonded with the Chief, understood his stakes in the universe, and suddenly, I'm this Covenant elite with a completely different backstory. The story tried to weave two perspectives, but it ended up feeling like two half-told tales rather than one cohesive story. This narrative split diluted the emotional impact and made it hard to care. I wasn't even a human anymore. I play Halo to fight aliens and protect humanity. It's like if in the middle of a football game, they decided to switch teams for no reason. The gameplay mechanics in Halo 2 didn't do much to salvage the experience for me. The introduction of dual wielding was a novelty that wore off fast, and the weapon balance felt off. Some weapons became nearly useless while others dominated, which was particularly frustrating in campaign mode, where ammunition scarcity could turn encounters into tedious affairs, even on easy difficulty. Moreover, the level design suffered from similar issues as its predecessor, but with added cliffhangers and less satisfying conclusions to missions. The infamous ending, which felt less like a cliffhanger and more like the game was simply cut off mid-story, left me with a sense of dissatisfaction rather than anticipation for what's next. Multiplayer, often hailed as Halo 2's saving grace, had its own set of problems from my perspective. Yes, it was revolutionary for its time with Xbox Live integration, but it introduced issues. The matchmaking system often felt unbalanced, pairing veterans with newcomers in a way that was punishing for the latter. The addition of new weapons and the ridiculously broken energy sword sometimes led to gameplay that felt less about skill and more about who could get the power weapons first. This shift turned many matches into frustrating experiences where strategy took a backseat to weapon control. Let's not even get into button combos or super bounces. Shame on you, Bungie. Lastly, the graphics and audio, while improved, couldn't mask the rushed development feel of the game. There were bugs and glitches that, while sometimes amusing, more often broke immersion. The much-touted graphical improvements still left environments that, at times, felt empty or overly repetitive. The broken lighting engine doesn't help either. The dual narrative also meant less time to polish each character's path, resulting in a campaign that felt both rushed and stretched thin. Playing through Halo 2, I couldn't help but feel that in trying to expand the universe, Bungie spread their efforts too thinly, losing the tight, focused gameplay experience that made the first game bearable, even if flawed in its own ways. It's actually worse than Combat Evolved, in my opinion. At least Combat Evolved didn't have lame rock songs from outsider bands who have nothing to do with Halo. Halo 3. For Halo 3's story, I found it to be a letdown after an already disappointing ending from Halo 2. The narrative felt less engaging, with a resolution that seemed too neat for the complex interstellar war it portrayed. Playing as Master Chief, I was expecting a deep dive into his character or at least some evolution, but instead, the story arc felt predictable and somewhat shallow with the same old predictable one-liners.
It's finished.
The addition of the Arbiter as a co-star didn't make any sense. Instead, they literally cut the Arbiter, making his journey feel split and less important. The grand scale of the war between humanity, the Covenant, and the Flood was there, but the emotional connection and the stakes didn't hit as hard as they should have. Cortana, arguably the only decent character in the trilogy. Sorry, Sergeant Johnson fans, dude is overrated.
Say what?
Doesn't even show up until the second to last mission of the game. The ending of Halo 3 left me with a profound sense of disappointment and sadness for Master Chief. Here I was, after fighting through countless battles, expecting an ending that would give closure or at least celebrate the monumental journey. Instead, what I got felt abrupt and anticlimactic. The final mission, while epic in scale, concluded with a rushed sequence where the narrative payoff didn't match the build-up. The sacrifice of Chief, going into cryosleep while drifting in space, felt less like a heroic end and more like an uncertain limbo. It was sad, not in the poignant, fulfilling way, but in a manner that left me feeling like his story was cut short, unresolved. Honestly, it might be more insulting than Halo 2's ending. When it comes to gameplay, I was immediately shocked by how it clung to its roots without enough innovation to feel fresh. The introduction of equipment was supposed to shake things up, but instead, it often felt like a gimmick. Take the bubble shield, for instance. It was meant to offer strategic depth, but in practice, it became a tool for camping or a panic button in multiplayer that disrupted the flow of combat rather than enhancing it. Sound familiar? It turned dynamic firefights into static standoffs, where strategy was less about skillful engagement and more about who could wait out the other. And don't get me started on how these items like regen were often just lying around, turning what could have been tactical decisions into random luck of the draw. The core shooting mechanics didn't evolve much either, and honestly got worse when compared to the previous games, lacking the tightness or responsiveness that was becoming standard in other shooters. This stagnation made every encounter feel overly familiar, stripping away the excitement that should come with each new installment in a beloved series. From my perspective, Halo 3 often gets hailed as the pinnacle of the trilogy, but I've never quite understood why it's placed on such a high pedestal. When I played through it, expecting the best of the series, what I found instead was a game that rested too much on the laurels of its predecessors. The campaign, while wrapping up the story, felt less innovative and more like a safe play, and filled with plot holes. The gameplay mechanics didn't introduce enough new elements to feel fresh. Instead, it felt like a slightly more polished version of what we'd already experienced in 2001. This lack of significant evolution made the game feel overrated, especially when compared to the groundbreaking nature of the first Halo or the ambitious, albeit divisive, narrative of Halo 2. Why people claim it's the best often baffles me. Perhaps it's the sentimentality of it being the conclusion of Master Chief's original arc, or the peak of Xbox 360's popularity. However, when I dissect it critically, Halo 3 didn't push the envelope far enough. Halo 3, in contrast, felt like it was riding the wave of its predecessor's innovations without adding enough of its own to stand out. It's not that the game is bad per se, it's just that it doesn't surpass its older brothers in the ways that matter most to me. Innovation, narrative depth, and gameplay evolution. Oh, and, humans aren't Forerunner. Here's the thing. I just beat this trilogy on easy difficulty for my first run-through. These folks who claim they love the Halo trilogy just because they grew up with it are completely missing the point. This nostalgia blinds them to the glaring flaws each game has. From the repetitive level design in Combat Evolved, to the abrupt ending of Halo 2, and the overly safe, non-innovative gameplay of Halo 3, these games are far from perfect. People defend these flaws with a toxic nature that's less about the game's actual merits and more about preserving their childhood memories. They're wrapped up in a comfort blanket of nostalgia, refusing to acknowledge that these games might just not hold up as the masterpieces they remember. This isn't just about having a different opinion. It's about refusing to see the objective shortcomings because of a sentimental bias, and that's a disservice to the evolution of gaming. These people blindly hate on the great work that 343 has done, all because they aren't young enough to experience new Halos anymore. 343 Industries. Let's talk storytelling. Bungie's Halo games? Sure, they had their moments, but they were pretty straightforward. Aliens attack, we fight back. 343, however, took the narrative to new depths. Halo 4? That was emotional. Cortana's rampancy, Chief's vulnerability? It felt real. And Infinite? It's like they've taken the best parts of Halo's lore and expanded it into something epic. The 343 games feel more adultish and more serious. It doesn't just feel like some stupid superhero comic book where Master Chief saves the day. He's a man, and his name is John. 343 gave him depth. We saw his relationship with Cortana evolve, his struggles with his humanity, his role in the universe. It's not just about shooting aliens. It's about the journey, the emotion. Then there's gameplay innovation. Bungie set the foundation, but 343 improved upon it. The Spartan abilities in Halo 5, while divisive, showed they weren't afraid to push boundaries. And Infinite, that open-world approach, it's like they listened to what fans wanted. Freedom, exploration, and that classic Halo feel, but with modern twists. Sprint was perfect in Infinite, yet people still like to act like print killed Halo. Graphics and technology? No contest. 343's games look and feel like they belong in this decade. The environments in Infinite are breathtaking. The character models are detailed. They've come a long way since the days of Halo 3's Lordhood face model. Ew. While Bungie's multiplayer was playable, 343 has refined it. The customization, the maps, the modes, they've added layers of depth. Infinite's multiplayer, despite its slow start, has shown promise with its free-to-play model and ongoing updates for its 10-year plan. Let's address the elephant in the room. Halo 5 Guardians gets more flack than it deserves. From my perspective, the gameplay mechanics were a breath of fresh air for the series. The introduction of the Spartan abilities like the Thruster Pack and Ground Pound added a new layer of mobility and strategy that made combat more dynamic and engaging. The campaign, while it had its narrative issues, offered some of the most varied and visually stunning environments in the series, and was still easier to take seriously when compared to the cheesy Bungie games. And let's not overlook Warzone, which was an ambitious multiplayer mode that blended PvE and PvP in a way that felt genuinely innovative. Sure, it wasn't perfect, but Halo 5 tried to push the franchise forward, and for that, it deserves more credit than it gets. Lastly, the future. 343 isn't just resting on past laurels, they are looking forward. The promise of what's to come with Infinite, the storytelling potential, the community events. Halo is in good hands, evolving rather than just repeating past successes. So, there you have it. 343's Halo isn't just building on Bungie's legacy, it's surpassing it. They're not afraid to innovate, to tell deeper stories, and to engage with the community in ways that feel genuinely progressive. I would like to end this video off with a section showcasing that I am not the only one who feels this way, and that all the Bungie fanboys you see on the internet are just a very vocal minority. Thank you so much for watching, and please head down to the description and join the Halo Chats Discord if you'd like to play some Halo 5 Guardians with your good pal, Cheese.
Alright, so I'm gonna be so for real with y'all right now. Bungie's only loved because y'all literally grew up with them. Like, if you really look at it, the newer Halo games have so much more to offer than just nostalgia. Like, be for real right now, guys. Like, no cap on God, for real.
I hate Bungie Halo. I am so sick and tired of people pretending that Bungie era Halo is good and that the 343 games are bad. I've played all the Halo games, and the Bungie games are boring, they're slow, and they're uninspired. There's also a blatant over-sexualization of women characters, which is offensive because I like men. Meanwhile, 343 games are super fast, and they make me feel very powerful, kind of like in Call of Duty or Valorant. Master Chief is also better in the 343 games because he gets character development, and I think in Infinite it was pretty clear that the story was going towards Master Chief being trans and having a gay relationship with Locke while the weapon watches. So basically, the 343 games are good, Bungie's bad.
Halo 3 has aged poorly. For one, you can't sprint, you can't even ADS with the shotgun, you can't slide, the movement is just way too floaty for its own good, and the art style is not up to Infinite's level, simply put. If you just look at how shields react to when you shoot them, it's clearly a lot better in Infinite, and you have a hit marker. Why doesn't Halo 3 have a hit marker on MTC? They should have added that in an update. How am I supposed to know I hit something when I'm tossing a grenade and hiding behind a wall? Infinite is an objective improvement over Halo 3, and fans who say otherwise are blinded by nostalgia.
Okay, I think what made the 343 games the absolute best in the series is how they make Chief talk so much more. Like with Bungie games, it's so fucking annoying when you don't even hear the main character talk. I need to hear the main protagonist speak every single 5 seconds. Otherwise, there's no dopamine in the game. Also, they made Halo like every other game, which is amazing. It makes it so easy to get into. Just imagine the loadouts, sprint, fucking plastic looking ass maps, characters, and all that. But the Bungie games, oh no, they want to be different.
As a huge Halo fan like myself, I personally think 343 Studios has done a way better job than Bungie ever could with pushing and cultivating the Halo universe as we know it today. 343 Studios has introduced a wide range of new characters, wide range of new lore and content into the games. You know, really humanizing the Spartans and defeating the whole stupid purpose that Bungie made them for, and that was to make them killing machines, but no, they're human like us. Characters like Spartan Locke, you can't just write that on paper, that takes thinking, that takes time, alright? There's not really much to say on what Bungie did. I mean, it's good, don't get me wrong, but 343 is great. Halo 4 and Halo 5 are two of the best, not just the best Halo games, best video games of the past 10 years. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
343 Halo games are 100%, no, 1,000% better than Bungie Halo games. I mean, are you kidding? First of all, look at the graphics. Just the graphics alone. They're so much better than the Bungie games. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And Halo 5, absolute peak. I mean, they just brought the games up to the standards that we have nowadays with the 343 games. They're just so much better. And that's just campaign. Then you got multiplayer, Infinite versus Halo 3. People are always like, 3 is so much better, 3 is the best, 3 is the masterpiece. Yeah, okay, well, you know what? Infinite's the GOAT. The fucking GOAT. Alright? And it's just because all these old ass motherfuckers are out here and they're just not good because we've got better mechanics, we've got more stuff in the multiplayer that they just can't handle because it's too much. It's too much for them to handle. So what I say is get good because 343 is better. 343 is just undeniably better.
And I think 343 is wonderful. I think Bungie should stay over there, stay making the Destiny or whatever they're doing with PlayStation. Stay over there. Don't come back and fucking put your poison back onto the Xbox. We've had enough. We've had enough.
One of the biggest reasons that 343's games are better than Bungie's is because in Halo 4 and 5, we see that the art style and gunplay is like a lot better than anything Bungie has ever made. And 343's customization in Halo Infinite is also amazing because of the coding system, because I'd rather pay for coatings for a pretty Spartan than be able to choose just a random boring base color. And I'm glad that they also removed playable elites because they literally don't fit in Halo and they had to be removed. And it's just like many things like that that just simply make 343 the better developer than Bungie.
So to be honest, I think 343 is objectively better than Bungie when it comes to Halo games. They have a way better campaign comparing it to what Bungie did. At the same time, their multiplayer is clearly better for the fact that it's more immersive and more diverse, whereas Bungie has always the same. It's the same dog shit, always 24/7. The best example would be, of course, the library in Combat Evolved, in which you're just dying over and over in the same map all the time. So in the end, if you want a more immersive gameplay, 343 will be always the better option.
If you really think 343 is doing a bad job, then you're a noob.